The programs that many of us grew up with as kids were just simple children's programs, were they a precursor to what we call the modern day world today? One of the most revolutionary shows that we can think about is a show called Power Rangers, a generational and cultural phenomenon that drastically changed the playing field for years to come. From a lengthy years of its existence to clever marketing on how to sell products, as well as just the power and impact it had on culture and people today. Um, if we travel back into the 60s, a company that brought you Godzilla, a company called Toei, had developed children's programming called Kamen Rider, which would eventually become a show called Super Sentai, or another spin-off called Super Sentai. Um, Around this time in the 70s, Marvel had taken interest in Japan. Stan Lee himself was working with Toei to develop a Japanese Spider-Man show. Around that time, he had discovered Super Sentai and actually had helped produce 3 seasons of Super Sentai in Japan. Stan Lee had actually petitioned Marvel to bring Super Sentai to America, however, he was shut down. Jump forward 10 more years, and we get to meet a gentleman named Haim Saban, a businessman who, in his hotel room, happened to be watching TV and saw Super Sentai come across the screen and eventually knew that he needed to have it. He quickly drove over to Toei, offered to buy them out. Eventually, a deal was made where he would own all the rights of Super Sentai outside of Japan. So he would own the footage, he would own the storylines, he would own the molds for the toys, the sets, the costumes. He would own all of that outside of Japan. With some clever camera angling and some rebranding, a show called Power Rangers was born. It took him 10 years to finally get the show to be able to produce it. It helped with a woman named Margaret Loesch, who was actually originally with Stan Lee helping to bring it back 10 years prior. She'd been an executive at Marvel, and at this point, she was now an executive at Fox Kids, so helped Saban bring Power Rangers to children's programming in America. She also was really, really infamous from changing the playing field for off to get it on every network and every TV station that she possibly could. She offered a contract that allowed TV stations to rake in the funds from the toy sales. And what is Power Rangers if not a program to sell toys? If you can't tell. And this had never been done before, and it drastically changed everything, and it paid off really well. It put Power Rangers on just about every TV station you can imagine in the United States and plus. It was hugely revolutionary, and it changed everything. But Power Rangers isn't just a show to sell toys, and it isn't just a show with a long, lengthy history. It's a show that's also looking towards the future, and it's done a lot of powerful impact with children. A gentleman named Matthew Lawrence, who is a professional actor and teacher, had noticed his children on recess were out playing Power Rangers. And he asked them, what do Power Rangers do? And they had told him, Power Rangers help people. He had noticed that the kids weren't focusing on the violent fighting aspects of the show, where a lot of parents were worried, a live action fighting show would, cause a lot of aggression in children. However, they were focused on teamwork. They were focused on working together to help and do better things. He had noticed this had transcended gaps in between genders and religion and race. People were not focused on that, and instead they were focused on coming together to solve problems. And it was a uniquely thing he had never seen before in children. Another person by the name of Madison Gray, who is a psychology journalist, had studied the effects of diversity and diverse superheroes and the effects on children and culture. And she discovered it was a huge change in society. Noticing people, different race, different ethnicities, being able to relate to superheroes in a way that they had never done before. And in 1993, when Power Rangers had a diverse cast of superheroes, that had not been something that was being pushed. That was not something that was happening. And so they were kind of the ones to start that domino effect, which now today we have such diverse casting in shows and movies that Power Rangers was kind of, not to be like a hippie, but they were doing it first. They were kind of the one of the first people to start that trend, and it has played out well. It has introduced people to new cultures they wouldn't normally have met, different religions, that kind of stuff. It became a very more progressive line to help ease people and to see, you know, a new side of things. So, I mean, there you have it. A children's program of teenagers in bright colored spandex fighting space aliens had changed the world from its lengthy history of, as of next year, 30 plus years on TV. That is 965 episodes. That is three feature-length movies. That is multiple video games. That is multiple comics and storylines. That is immense amount of runtime. It has also expanded to everything you could think of, from, you know, cereal to shoe lines to, of course, toys. So Power Rangers has stretched it anywhere and everywhere you can imagine, and they've gone above and beyond to touch everywhere they can be. And a show like this is easy to be chalked up as just a kid's nonsense show, but that's not what this program is. It's a show that has empowered children since 1993, and even more so in Japan, as a show that Super Sentai has gone on for now almost a little over 45 years. So this is overall a great, interesting program. It may be a kid's show, it may be cheesy and dorky and dumb, but it's also naive to call it just the children's program. In the words of Power Rangers, as cheesy it is, to end on a funny note, because, you know, you gotta have something fun to do, right? And I guess we will have to end it in a way where we say, it's morphin' time.